Welcome back, Sebastian here. So today I want to talk about Arvid Lindblad, Racing Bull's 2026 rookie, and the only rookie that we know so far for the 2026 F1 season. So first, taking a look at some just basic information about Lindblad. So for Lindblad, he's from the United Kingdom, and his hometown is a place called Virginia Water. Never heard of it myself before doing this video, but yeah, probably a wonderful place. 18 years of age going into this season. His 2025 series his primary series that he did was Formula 2, and his 2026 team in F1 is of course Racing Bulls, the junior team for Red Bull. So first I want to talk a little bit about his junior career so far, focusing primarily on his career in single-seaters. So his first season, single-seaters was a partial season. In 2022, joining Italian F4 midway through the season after turning 15, which I think is the age that you need to be in order to do single-seater racing, at least top-level single-seater racing. So for that partial season, he raced with Van Amersfoort Racing, came 17th in the championship with 12 points. No wins, podiums, or pole positions, but again, understandable coming in mid-season. Just for comparison, his three teammates that year, Stenshorn, Bador, and Castro. Stenshorn came 7th with 122 points, Bador 16th with 14 points, and Castro 24th with 2 points. And during the time that Lindblad raced this season in Formula 4, he was a little bit worse than Stenshorn, a little bit better than Bador, and quite a bit better than Castro. So kind of in the middle, but again, not really a big deal given how young he was, and also the fact that he come in mid-season without prior experience. So 2023, he does a bunch of different series, but the main series that he does do is Italian F4 again. This time, driving for Prema, finishes third in the championship with 263.5 points. Gets 6 wins out of 21, 10 podiums, and 4 pole positions out of 21 races. Compared to his teammates, and again, driving for Prema, which is generally the benchmark in Italian F4, is towards the higher end, but again, he wasn't the best driver in his team in terms of points that year. Ugo Ugochukwu, former McLaren Jr., finished second in the championship with 280 points, so a little bit less than Ugochukwu, but still not a big difference there. Wharton was next with 4th, 205.5 points. Tappan in 5th on 196, and then 2 further down, Aldahiri 10th on 68, and Lacorte in 9th on 75. So again, a good season, not absolutely amazing. Didn't set the world on fire, like dominate the championship the way that Antonelli, Kimi Antonelli, driver who many have compared to Lindblad, did. But still a good first full season in Italian F4. So for 2024, Lindblad makes the big step up to Formula 3. Again, driving for Prema, finished 4th in the championship that year as a 16-year-old, which is pretty impressive. 113 points, I should say, 4 wins out of 20, 5 podiums, but no pole positions. And again, smack dab in the middle of his teammates in his team's pecking order, which was, of course, Prema. His first teammate, Mini, finished second in the championship with 130 points, whereas his other teammate, Bogdanovich, finished 6th on 109 points. Now, for Lindblad this season, he had a very strong, I would say, first 2/3 of the season. Looked like he could have been in championship contention, but had a very, very poor final third of the season where he didn't get a single point, I believe, in the final 2 or 3 rounds, so final 6 races or so. So again, it was a very promising start to the season that tailed off very poorly towards the end, which was, I think, left a lot of question marks, as generally the expectation is that with some of these younger drivers, rookies as well, that they actually get better as the season goes along, not getting worse, which is kind of what we saw from Lindblad. So a little bit odd. And again, no pole positions is also a little bit troubling. Normally you would want a little bit more in terms of one-lap performance, but again, Lindblad is one of the youngest drivers in the field, and again, Red Bull seemed to have a lot of faith in him, and it continued the accelerated progression of his junior career, where I think maybe you could have argued for a second season in Formula 3. So 2025, this past season, he moves up to Formula 2, but before he does that Formula 2 season, in order to ensure that he has the super license points that would basically come very, very close to basically guaranteeing him the super license points to potentially race in Formula 1 this year, 2026. He decides to go and do Formula Regional Oceania, which is a very low-level Formula Regional championship held in New Zealand in the winter. Basically, it's going on right now, and it's basically a month or so. And it's basically it's one of the two main winter series that drivers can do to basically get more experience, but also to help accumulate super license points. So driving for the M2 competition team, he wins the championship. Not a big surprise. He was the heavy favorite going into the championship, gets 370 points, 6 wins out of 15, 12 podiums out of 15, and 6 poles out of 10. His teammate, or his main, I'd say his best teammate that he had was Mattia Zagazzetta, who finished 5th on 244 points. And again, if you look at the grid, this was not a super competitive field. Zagazzetta, I would say, is probably the most well-known of the other drivers in the field that year, and he's kind of a below-average Formula 3 driver. So again, not a stacked grid, a particularly stacked grid, and it was a fairly easy win, I think, for Lindblad. So again, in some ways, you can look at 6 wins out of 15 races and say maybe he could have done better. But again, there's a lot of tracks that he wouldn't, or at least almost all of the tracks, I should say, he wouldn't have known. So again, there is a bit of unfamiliarity there that could understand, not being even more dominant, I should say. Now for 2025, of course, the main campaign that he did was in Formula 2. In Formula 2 this past season, driving for Campos, the same team that Isaac Hadjar raced with last year, the year before, 2024. He finished 6th with 134 points. 2 sprint race wins out of 14, 1 feature race win out of 14, 4 podiums in sprint races, but only 1 podium in feature races, and that was his win in, I believe, Spain, in Barcelona. So only having 1 podium in feature races is a little bit troubling, and that's something I think would be a cause for slight concern. Does get 1 pole out of 14. I believe that was also in Barcelona, so it seems like he knows Barcelona very well. Did very well there, but no poles at other tracks. But that being said, the median pole gap for Lindblad was 0.463 seconds, which was 5th overall that season, and 3rd amongst the rookies behind Fornaroli and Dunn. So in the top 5, which is all right, but again, not even the top rookie. So it does suggest that there's perhaps a little bit more on the table there in terms of qualifying pace. His teammate for most of the season was Pepe Marti. Ends up finishing 8th in the championship on 112 points, but I believe Marti was actually ahead of Lindblad before Marti basically stepped away from Formula 2 to focus on his Formula E duties, what he's doing now. So again, it was very competitive between himself and Marti, and again, most I think pundits and viewers would say that Marti's not really F1 caliber, but still, despite, I would say, an okay first season Formula 2, he gets the promotion to Formula 1. Now, I just want to talk, before I talk a little bit more about Lindblad and maybe some expectations for this season, I want to look at the qualifying performance from him and look at that and compare it to other first-year drivers in Formula 2 historically. So these are all of, not all of them, but these are basically a lot of the drivers who are kind of in the same kind of benchmark, ballpark as Lindblad when it comes to first season performance in Formula 3. Or in Formula 2, I should say. And I think one interesting benchmark I think many people are going to compare him to is, of course, Kimi Antonelli. So for Antonelli, again, he was 17 when he did that Formula 2 season last year, 2024, I should say. And his median qualifying gap was about, 3.5 tenths of a second. So for Lindblad, 4.5 tenths of a second means he was in obviously different grids, but he was basically about a tenth of a second slower. And obviously Antonelli's had a good, I would say an okay first season, but again, it was a pretty scruffy year. And again, if you look at some other drivers, especially those who went on to F1, we can see Logan Sargent first year, 4 tenths of a second. Sonoda, again, about 4 tenths of a second. Let's see, other drivers who went straight to Formula 1 from their first season. Lando Norris, 4.4 tenths of a second or so. And again, Norris' career turns out pretty well so far, obviously being defending world champion and all. And then, of course, you have some other drivers here like Franco Colapinto even, about 5.9 tenths of a second in his rookie season, of course, got the promotion to F1 that same year. So for Lindblad, he's generally in the lower end, and if you look at some of the drivers who are kind of close to the same ballpark of him, you do have quite a wide range. I would say of the drivers here that went on to F1 after that first season, Formula 2, Norris would definitely be the best of them, and he had a pretty good year that year in terms of qualifying performances. The other ones, not so much, I would say. Tsunoda, Sargent especially, they struggled quite a bit compared to their more experienced teammates. Antonelli, I would say, was okay, especially given he had such a strong teammate in Russell. And so for Lindblad, I think in terms of everything that he's shown so far in his junior career, I don't think he's shown absolutely amazing results going from Formula 4 up to Formula 2. But that being said, they are, I would say, good results, especially given his age. He has been younger than almost every driver he's been racing against. And I think if you were to compare him directly to Antonelli, I would say he looks to be a little bit worse than Antonelli, given that they basically were at most seasons about the same step, or at least, Lindblad was basically one step behind him in his career. I think the race performances have been very patchy. He's had races where he looked very good, like Barcelona, where he won the feature race, got pole. But he's also had races where he's had some pretty notable crashes, picked up penalties and stuff. And so I think you're going to see a lot of that this year in F1. Now, of course, his teammate this year is going to be Liam Lawson, who I'd say is a okay but below average driver, especially in terms of qualifying results. And it will be at least a reliable benchmark in the sense that, we generally have a sense of where Lawson is as an F1 driver. And again, if Lindblad can be, a 2/10 quicker than Lawson, then that would be a really good sign. If he's about the same, or if he's even behind Lawson, especially in terms of qualifying results, I think that would be a bit of a troubling sign and not a great start to his career. So I think all in all, I think he could have a good season, but I think it's one of these things where I think it could also go pretty poorly. Especially since that it's going to be new cars. Lindblad, of course, is not going to have been able to do private testing in the this type of car because, of course, it doesn't exist yet. No one's driven any of these cars, and we have seen from rookies coming in the first year of a new set of regulations that they can struggle quite a bit. I remember Lance Stroll 2017 had a really poor rookie season, especially in terms of qualifying results. Zhou, I think, was actually better than expected. But the race results were not amazing, I would say. That first year generally was quite far behind Bottas. Other first year drivers in terms of rookies, I would say, to be honest, Stoffel Van Dorn 2017 honestly had a pretty good first season. But again, there are not a ton of rookies that come in that first season just because, teams generally try not to have rookies come in early because of the lack of, a car to test with. So again, it will be a big test for Lindblad. We'll see how he goes. I hope he has a good season. But again, it's one of those things where we're just kind of have to wait and see. I think the good news I would say for Lindblad is that there's relatively little pressure on him. There aren't a ton of any other drivers in the, Red Bull family who will be putting pressure on him to potentially replace him at that seat. And I think even if there were drivers, I think they would be more likely to replace Lawson than him, just, from now. And of course, there's also the potential risk of, for example, Verstappen leaving, going elsewhere, which would be a big problem for Red Bull. But that being said, for Lindblad, it should be a relatively low pressure first season, I would say, especially given that Helmut Marko is not going to be there anymore. And him and his, sink or swim, approach to things. That's something I'm actually going to be talking about in a video, I think next week. But yeah, for this video talking about Arvid Lindblad, should have a good season. Hoping that it goes well. And it'll be interesting to compare against some of the rookies from last season. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.